I mean,
Yeah.
we're just speculating, right? He might love United Kingdom. He might just absolutely fucking hate everyone who works at that club. I have no idea. But it's something isn't quite right, and therefore there's no point in making the bloke do a job that he doesn't want to do in a place he doesn't want to do it. Something isn't working out for him, and therefore he needs to move on, if that is the case.
And Pep, I mean, even Pep has been vocal in saying that you don't keep an unhappy Harry Kane when he wants to come to. Oh no, sorry, wrong topic. You don't you don't keep unhappy players apparently, which is why Ferran Torres is gone, and we should have sold Kane. Yada yada yada. Anyway, shall we?
And it's a shame. I know the fans have been getting on his case. I know he was booed, this and that and the other. I just think it's just a real shame because we're sitting here moaning about a squad that isn't talented enough, and he is talented, and we just haven't seen the best of him for all of the
and fans have said, in the games where we've struggled to break down teams like Southampton and various other teams, that the game is crying out for an Ndombele, but an Ndombele that wants to put himself on the pitch. So and he clearly doesn't want to do that. He clearly hasn't shown enough for Conte to think, well, this is definitely the way forward, and this is definitely the option. Anyway, so Lee, you wanted to talk about Conte in his post-match interview.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, several interviews, but it just seems to have cut a bit of a sort of depressed-looking figure in the post-match interviews, and I just wondered what we thought, whether that was because he's bit fed up with, he knows that the same questions are going to keep coming at him over this team and how is he going to sort it out and who's he going to buy, or do we already think that this project's weighing heavily on his shoulders?
I think he just doesn't like not winning with style. I mean, I think he's a winner and he likes to do things really well. He'll have been pissed off yesterday that he had to, as you say, like that we had to bring on the cavalry to win that game. He'll have been pissed off that the players that he brought in on Tuesday clearly don't care enough to put in more of a shift. So I'm not sure. I think it's too easy to kind of jump to those conclusions about projects and back in and this and that and this. I think that's too easy and certainly too early to jump to those kind of conclusions. I would suggest that it's my opinion, and I'm happy for others to jump in really to voice their opinion. But my opinion would just be purely based on performance of the alternatives, because I think the kind of first 11, I think he's kind of happy with. I think it's the rest of the squad that's a massive issue for him. Having to use those, we've got loads of games. Had loads of games coming up. It's a massive, massive, massive season-defining month for us at the moment. And he can't rely on some of the players that he probably want to rely on, or he flogs the ones that he can rely on into the ground.
I think where the sort of feeling of that has sort of emanated from is that he has walked away from clubs fairly quickly, or when things don't seem to be going his way. So I think there's an element of anxiety around fans, even though it is way too early to be like that. So I do agree, but and there's always that over sort of arching anxiety from previous managers where once they've got in and got a sense of what this lot are like, that it's done for a number of managers already. So until we see signs that he is going to be backed and that change is going to take effect, I suppose there'll always be those lingering tensions around fans of what's where this might all end up.
Indeed. Any other ones? Anyone else want to jump in on that quickly?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think as we're all there's doom or there's gloom, and there's we're not even through the first transfer window yet, and everyone's saying the bloke's had enough and he's going to throw in the towel. It's just I don't know. I think we've talked about this before, where our patience or our ability as fans to see further than the end of the next weekend is somewhat diminished, and that's through either because of COVID and because we're bored and we have nothing else to do, or because we become so entitled, or this or that, or the other. I just don't really know. But, it seems to be a shorter and shorter period of window that either fans get bored or think the manager's getting bored, rather than actually thinking, like most normal people, let's give it a year and see what happens.
But they don't want to give it a year because it's all Levy's fault, isn't it? It's the original agenda kicks in, doesn't it? It's
it just becomes boring as a fan, Jamie.
Yeah, get that ball cunt out of our club and all of that sort of stuff.
It's just boring. We've heard it all before, and fine. We've seen some good performances, we've seen some shitty performances. We've seen some brilliant managers and some shit managers. The fact of the matter is that you just get fucking bored of it all. And frankly, that's not what any of us really entered into watching football for. We wanted to be entertained, support a club, have a good time out, see our mates, have a nice weekend, whatever it might be. And listen to all his fucking whinging. It's like,
isn't that? I mean, I don't know about you, Simon, but I find my enjoyment of following Spurs has increased with the less that I'm on Twitter. I spent a lot of time on Twitter for a long period of time, and I now spend less time on a significantly less amount of time on Twitter than I used to, and I now enjoy Spurs
everything
a lot more than I was before, because my mood isn't tempered by people's continual moaning and sniping. I saw and this wasn't Spurs related, but it was Spurs Spurs accounts. So I followed them because they're Spurs accounts, and there was a discussion that was going on that had been going on since yesterday and was still going on, and it went on from yesterday all the way through today, and they were just going backwards and forwards and saying, well, you're wrong. But where's the evidence? What about this? Do you know this for sure? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, fuck it. Really, you really haven't got anything better to do with your life than to just keep coming back at each other to try and get one over on the person. It's just, I spend less and less time on there now, and I interact less because it's just better for my sanity.
I think you're probably right, Steve, and it's probably just as I say, just me just sounding off a little bit. But you're probably right. There's like remove these negative influences from your life, and you'll be a lot happier person. And I just think that you're probably right. The less time you spend in the cesspit of social media, probably the happier mental health you'll have.
Yes, Rich.
Just to say on that, I mean, obviously, I've gone through the same sort of process as you, Steve. I was guilty of being on it, every waking minute, especially during lockdown and all those sort of things. And it pays to be reminded of how little all of that shit relates to real life, doesn't it? Sometimes, the only way I can cope with it now is you have to heavily curate who it is that you allow onto your timeline, and be merciless with the idiots that are just going to drag you down. And it's a pantomime. They should just rename that app Pantomime app, because if you go on it thinking I'm going to go on the Panto app, and you've got dickheads A in left corner going, you bold bastard, get out of my club, and dickheads B going, you don't know you've got it so good, on the other side, then I mean, fucking hell, it really is a bin fire, isn't it?
I think I think you cheered me up a little bit there by thinking, yes, I think so.
It's Panto app. That's what you've got to call it, Panto app.
Yeah, and you do need to look. I think if you go away and look at other things, you realise how actually, even though people on Twitter shout so loudly, it is really represents a small microcosm of what society is really like and what real people are really like. So yeah, no, Rich, 100% good point. But onto another positive, another good point. There was the mural of King Ledley unveiled today, which I thought was that was really good. Apparently, this was something that was a fan-led initiative and dealt with by the pushed by the Supporters Trust. I mean, we've not had any other kind of mementos or of other players or legends or whatever of the club. So, do you think this is something else, something that we should that should be the start of something where we get other murals, other statues?
I can't believe you're saying this. Wasn't there a massive Stephen Bergwijn painting from Sky Sports down the road only months ago? I can't believe you're ignoring that.
I said legends. I couldn't have been clearer.
I'm saying, I think it's. I saw the pictures today online. I thought the premise was brilliant. I thought it was a great idea, and definitely something which we'd like to see a bit more of in the local area to kind of just keep the reality of the core and the heart of the club in amongst all of the commercialism and regeneration that's going on as far as possible. And I thought it was a great idea and it was brilliant.
He looked visibly moved, didn't he, when he went to see that as well? It was it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, Steve, you're right. Again, a few pods back, we said after Jim Greaves passed, why aren't we putting a statue up of him as well?
Yeah.
There really should be that foresight from the club that is the ground isn't just a multi-purpose stadium. It's part of the area, part of the football history, and so therefore we need to reflect that in showing some of our legends of the past, such as Paolo Tramazzani, and people like Nicola Berti.
Get Razak up there.
Yeah, Doherty.
Yeah,
Andy Booth, statues of people like that.
I think actually someone we should try and get up there, although he probably misses Kieran Trippier. Did you see it? You saw his unveiling. Did you see his Simon? I don't know if you saw his unveiling picture, Simon, where so he's trying to point at the badge, and he's I thought he was trying to point at the badge, but he's pointing at his arm or something. I'm not sure. Maybe it's an in joke that we weren't aware of. And
it wasn't. On
top of that, he walks in, makes his debut, and promptly crashes straight out of the FA Cup. Fantastic stuff. Immediately a legend.
But wasn't the joke always going to be that we were going to have a statue of Musa Sissoko, but it was just going to be a football on the top of the stadium? It's like, what's that up there? That's where Musa kicked his last shot.
Had quite a few shots, quite a few balls up there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just basically just a mound of footballs on the roof of the stadium. What's that? That's all Musa's shots. But yeah, I do agree and it's a strange one because a lot of people criticise, the stadium doesn't feel like the club and this, that, and the other. But there are so many elements in the stadium that make it still relevant to the club and make it, the home from home. I'm doing rabbit ears for those who are only listening. With the wall, the programme wall, and the various other elements they've incorporated into the stadium, it's surprising that they haven't then gone and done something for Greaves and others. And I know that they don't want to litter the place, but there are, I would say, a handful, literally no more than, that you think actually you'd want to do something to commemorate them because they are part of the history of the club, whether that's Nicholson, whether that's Greaves, whoever that will be. But every generation has one, so we probably ought to honour them.
They used to have busts. I don't know if they still do, but they used to have busts inside, in the sort of trophy area or whatever, with the trophies and all that.
In a cup room.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they still do that.
They have them at the Bill Nick now, don't they?
Okay. Yeah, different class.
Right, okay.
We back to our pre-pod chat, are we, Lee?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.